one of you. We are stronger together. We're better together. We can do this because we all deserve contracts now. We have been waiting for far too long for these airlines to come to the table and actually give us the fair wages and fair work rules that we deserve. So let's get out there and let's have a good time.
Here. How many people have waited more than a year for a contract? How many folks here have waited more than 3 years for a contract? And let me hear those in the house that have waited 5 long years.
5 years, too long!
We are all here together to say we are unified against corporate greed. We will not stand for corporations earning money out of your pockets. They are stealing from you. They are stealing from me. Flight attendants should not have to choose between eating and paying rent. So what do we want? Contract! When do we want it? Now!
My name is Josh Rosenberg. I'm the Oakland Domicile Executive Board Member for TWU 556, which represents Southwest Airlines flight attendants.
What's happened at your airline, and why are you out here today?
We've been in contract negotiations for over 5 years, clearly, so that's all through the pandemic. We know inflation has gone crazy in that time, and our wages haven't kept up with the inflation trends. So, you know, we're way behind where we should be. I mean, we know what inflation has done through the pandemic, and we're just, flight attendants are having a really hard time making ends meet. We have some members that sleep in their car. It's crazy.
And has this been going on a long time?
Yeah, so contract negotiations for 5 years for us. We have, tried to work with Southwest Airlines. We're in mediation right now. It has been kind of a struggle to get them to the table with the mediators. We have that going on. We're meeting with them on the 21st and 22nd. So we're hoping that this action really moves the needle in our direction so we can get our members what they deserve.
And the conditions of flight attendants, there are fights on planes, stress, COVID. I mean, you've been through quite a bit. Why don't you talk about the effect on flight attendants in these conditions?
Yeah, I mean, we saw during COVID what a stressful job it really is. There were, like you mentioned, all sorts of assaults on aircrafts that flight attendants had to deal with, assaults on flight attendants. We've tried to push forward legislation to make sure that our flight attendants or any flight attendant or any airport employee shouldn't have to deal with assaults. We had to deal with the mask mandate, and we know how political wearing masks got, and we were tasked with enforcing that. So we got thrown into a political situation.
Is that your job title?
I mean, right? Like, should it have been our job to be the face of really like this whole political discussion around masks? But we got thrown that upon us, and we all did our job as professionally as we could to, try and do our job, just do what our company tells us.
I mean, the conditions of the airlines, I mean, the weather situation, the software problems of airlines, I mean, that must have traumatic effects on workers.
Oh, incredible ramifications. I mean, in December of 2022, Southwest system entirely crashed. They had no idea where their flight attendants were. We had people lost in our system because the airline completely shut down because of their technology issues. They haven't invested in their infrastructure, and we had to deal with the brunt of that.
Are they making profits?
Yeah, they're making big profits, right? They're making big profits. They got big loans from the government, right? And
your taxes, in other words, our taxes paid for.
Yeah, right. Basically a bailout, right? And airlines have to keep flying. They're a necessity. People have to travel from point A to point B. People, it's dependent on trade, everything. But they need to reward their workers, and not even reward their workers. They need to just give their workers a living wage.
And what is a living wage?
A living wage, I mean, inflation has gone, since we've been in negotiations, inflation has gone up over 20%. So
You've taken a wage cut, is that what it is?
We've taken a huge wage cut over the past 5 years. So everything has gone up 20%, except for our wage. And I don't know, I mean, how do people survive? I mean, here we are in the Bay Area. which inflation is going to be even higher here. So, you know.
And the CEOs, their pay?
Big bonuses. We just saw the bonuses from the CEOs. Big bonuses, as always. This is corporate greed. This is, I mean, what always happens until workers fight back, right? The bosses take a lot of money, the workers suffer, but then the workers unite, the workers show up, and we get what's due to us. So that's what we're doing today.
And it seems like a lot of airline workers are in the same situation as far as flight attendants.
Oh yeah, flight attendants, most flight attendants around the industry are in this situation. We have over 100,000 flight attendants that are currently in contract negotiations. And again, that's what you see here today. We're all uniting. We're from different unions, AFA, APFA, TWU, but we're all uniting under this one cause to make sure that flight attendants get the respect that we deserve and the wages we deserve.
What can people do if they want to support you?
Keep paying attention. Let the airlines know that this doesn't stand. You have to give your people a living wage. It's rough. It's also rough because we can't go on strike without act of Congress, like an act from the president. We can't go on strike.
That happened with the railroad workers too, didn't it?
Yeah, we saw what happened with the railroad workers. And you know, while Biden is a labor-friendly president, even the most labor-friendly president we've ever had isn't going to let us strike under the RLA, right? That's the reality of it.
If you go all out, what is it going to do?
Yeah, I mean, we could shut it down, right? And that shows how important we are and how much we deserve to be respected, that if we were allowed, we could shut the whole thing down.
And what does it feel like to be working in the airline industry in the United States and people are living in their cars and they're working at a union job as an airline worker? What does that say about America?
I mean, it's rough because like under the RLA, we don't have those same protections. Under the RLA, we don't have the same protections that other work groups have. So, I mean, it's really hard. Our contract just becomes amendable, and we can't do actions past this. So it's hard, and it's hard to explain that to our members who are out there suffering, who are out there not keeping up with inflation, whose wage is getting degraded. It's a tough message to tell our members.
I am here to support the Alaska Airlines flight attendants. I am a part of the IAM, International Association of Aerospace Workers, fighting machinists, and I'm just trying to stand up. They helped us out, we helped them out.
What's your name?
My name is Sheila Stevens. I am the ramp committee and for United Airlines on the ground.
And they haven't had a contract for 4 or 5 years? That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and it's time for them to pay them.
Why aren't they paying them? I mean, United's making a lot of profits.
Yeah, they're making a lot of profits, and they need to pay the people. If you want, it doesn't work without us. It doesn't. You're not going to get on that plane without the workers. So they need to respect the frontline workers and treat them as such. Because without us, you won't grow.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go.
My name is Christy Rivera. I'm the local president for AFA, the Association of Flight Attendants in San Francisco.
For all flight attendants or just to one airline?
For all flight attendants that are United Airlines flight attendants based in San Francisco.
And you got a lot of angry people here. What's happening?
So we're out here today because flight attendants are tired of waiting for a contract. We've been waiting for some airlines as much as 5 years. Corporate greed is lining pockets, and it's time for flight attendants to have a contract now.
Is it true you said, speaking, that people have to make a decision about whether they're going to eat? I mean, what are the living conditions of flight attendants?
So conditions for flight attendants are really challenging right now. We have flight attendants that haven't had a pay increase in 5 years. Our newest flight attendants are barely making ends meet. And they do have to make a choice, sometimes a very difficult choice, of whether they can eat this month or whether they can pay their rent in cities like San Francisco.
And what kind of profits at these airlines are they making?
United Airlines and all airline corporations are making record profits right now. And at this point, they're not willing and are not negotiating with flight attendant contracts. We have airlines from Southwest, United, American, Alaska Airlines, all flight attendant unions with no contracts.
And I understand they signed a contract with the pilots?
Yeah, we're thrilled that all of our
What was that increase? It was a massive increase.
Yes, absolutely, and deservedly so. Now flight attendants are looking for their fair share in contract negotiations for a company that's making billions of dollars in unpaid wages for flight attendants.
And the conditions of flight attendants, the stress level, I mean, fights on the planes, health and safety, I mean, it seems like this a hazardous profession at this point.
Well, flight attendants are really aviation's first responders. We're here to save lives. Flight attendants' job is to get passengers out of a dangerous situation on board an aircraft in 90 seconds or less. So when we don't have enough rest, when we don't have enough time away from the job, when we're on duty for 20 hours a day, it prevents us from doing our number one purpose, and that's save lives.
And when you talk about pay, are you paid waiting for flights, or you're only paid when you're on the plane?
So flight attendants are looking for ground time pay. We're only paid for the time that we actually are in the air.
But you're working, but you're at work, aren't you?
We're required to be at work in certain locations at a certain time, yet all the time we spend on the ground is unpaid.
That could be hours and hours waiting.
Yes, we can spend up to a 12-hour day with maybe only 3 or 4 hours in the air.
That must be very difficult. You're waiting to get paid, really, for your time?
And it's time that corporations recognize the value of flight attendant work on board the aircraft, and it's time for them to pay flight attendants their worth.
And what is the average wage of a flight attendant?
I can't speak to the average other than to say in cities like San Francisco and large cities around the world, flight attendants' salaries are not enough. They're on food assistance, and corporations...
They're getting food assistance from the government because you're not paid enough? Your members are not paid enough?
So we do have flight attendants that do seek out services from the county, from a corporation that makes millions and billions of dollars, yet their frontline employees can't eat.
So the taxpayer is subsidizing flight attendants because the company won't pay them a living wage? Is that what's going on?
So that's exactly why flight attendants are out here saying we are going to fight back against corporate greed. It's ridiculous and it's unconscionable that we have members that cannot afford to have food on their table when they're working a full-time job.
And how many flight attendants are without a contract in the United States?
Right now, you will see here in San Francisco quite a few flight attendants. I would say across the industry, we are looking at over 100,000 flight attendants currently working with an amendable contract without a wage increase, some for more than 5 years.
And it seems like workers in this country are more and more fed up. There have been strikes of workers all over the country, graduate students, Starbucks workers, auto workers. I mean, it seems like there's a growing anger and frustration among working people that they're not able to survive.
The labor movement is on the rise. Workers are coming together in situations like this where we are crossing companies, we're crossing industries, we're crossing labor groups to say workers need to be united because it's not the workers have. Stop. Let me grab that one back and rewind. Workers need to be able to rely on each other's labor coalitions, and that's where we grow in strength and our power, because it is the working class of this country that built this country, and workers are not going to be set to the side while corporations are profiting off of our labor.
And where is President Biden on this? It sounds like to have 100,000 flight attendants without a contract or amendable contracts, that's a lot of workers. You have the power to shut down the whole industry.
Well, I can't really say that, but what I can say is when you have 4 of the 5 major U.S. carriers in mediation, in negotiations, we cannot be silent and we cannot be ignored. At some point, the corporations of the airline industry are going to have to come and bargain with flight attendants realistically and give flight attendants the work and the power and the contract that we have deserved.
What does it mean to be without a contract for 5 years? I mean, it seems like to be without a contract for 5 years, that's a long time.
So we come through COVID, things have happened, inflation inflation has been driven. Having no pay raise within 5 years means we are further and further behind in our paychecks, and this is exactly the reason why we're looking for contract gains, not just in wages, but in quality of life. Flight attendants need to be able to feed their families.
And the fear that flight attendants, frontline workers had during COVID, I mean, that must have been very stressful. PPE, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, is that cause for concern among flight attendants?
So obviously during the COVID pandemic, flight attendants were the front line. We were essential workers. We helped during the government shutdowns. We provided PPE loans to all of the airlines and helped them get through a real drastic emergency. Yet they have left those frontline workers behind when it comes time to negotiate their contract.
So they're certainly not remembering what your work was during that period.
Absolutely, and they're in the position that they're in. United Airlines, American Airlines, all of the major U.S. airlines are in a position today to move forward because of the work of the Association of Flight Attendants on the PPE loans, and that is why those airlines can move forward today.
Did your union help get the PPE loans for the industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sarah Nelson, our AFPA International president, helped ensure that all of those loans went towards payroll support for PSP, and it did not go into the pockets of the corporations.
Okay, and how can people support the airline flight attendants if they want to give you support?
We want your support in just coming out, fly our airlines. We want our airlines to be successful, but we need the public's help to understand that planes don't fly without flight attendants.
What do we want now? What do we want? Contract. When do you want it? Now. What do we want? Contract. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Contract. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Contract. When do you want it? Now. Do you want it?
Why are you out here today on the picket line?
To fight for workers' rights. Corporations are gone too far in all parts of America. You know what I mean? They're holding down common people. They're posting record profits and rewarding themselves, executives, with bonuses, and they're not giving it to the people that actually do the work and make everything happen.
Are you surprised they haven't gotten a contract in 5 years?
Absolutely. It's almost without precedent, I'd say. I've been a steward for like 12 years, and I was blown away when I found out we're CWA brothers and sisters of theirs, but to find out that they had been that long without a contract it's absolutely mind-blowing.
Why are these corporations doing this? They're making money, billions of dollars of profit.
You know, it's the same excuse that all corporations seem to fall back to, that we'll go out of business and we can't be profitable if we pay you guys a living wage. And it's a tired old trope that gets used every time. Like it's a ruse, you know what I mean? Like when they start taking pay cuts that are commensurate with what they contribute to society and the corporations that they're leading, and they make those sacrifices, then we can talk about, hey, we need to make cuts elsewhere. But to give people the basic human dignity and rights that they deserve, to be able to, just like we're saying, pay their rent, and when you have a choice between putting a roof over your head and eating, that's a choice nobody should have to make. This is a first world country, and it's unacceptable, it's inexcusable.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for AT&T. I'm a CWA steward and officer, secretary, treasurer for local 9412 in Hayward.
What's happening with AT&T? You face the same situation?
They're looking at trying to get out of landline. They're petitioning the CPUC right now to be deregulated as a public utility so that they have the option to not provide service in rural areas where people who
need landlines
for like health, like the Lifeline service, people that have heart monitors, health conditions, hospitals, and they say that wireless is an answer, but there's areas where 911 callers, like the dispatchers, don't realize where they are when you're using a cellular device. There's areas where a cell tower may be taken out in a firestorm or something of that nature. There's no substitute for the infrastructure and the national security that's provided by the landline service.
They're putting lives in danger, potentially.
Absolutely, yeah. There's going to be a lawsuit from somebody if they die or something because they didn't have their service. Like, it's eventually going to come to that.
Do you think AT&T cares about it?
No. They'll say lip service and commercials and everything to cover their butt, you know what I mean, and protect themselves against litigation, but like ultimately, fundamentally, do they care? No, I don't believe that.
How would it affect AT&T workers if they get rid of all the landlines?
I mean, there are probably 40, 50,000, I'd estimate, nationwide that
That's a lot of workers
that could have their career impacted by that, yeah.
And AI, they're using AI too? Are they using AI at all?
Everybody is now, yeah, and that's a whole separate argument, but that affects bargain for employees in different departments as well, call centers and things of that nature.
What can workers do who want to support this struggle?
Get out there, unionize, organize the industries that you're in, and all stand together. And like, I'm a telecom worker, but these guys are in the same union as us, to get out and stand down where we can, to shut the machine down, stop the profit, stop the work, until we get basic human dignity, like what we are owed.